Morning,
Good
Crookie. How
morning.
are you?
Good morning. I'm good. I've got to say, I agree with Cascarino completely. I think Ronaldo does owe Manchester United.
Or does he owe
Um,
them?
I think he owes them because they were the only club willing to pay him £500,000 a year ago. There's a narrative, a false narrative, in my opinion, that he joined United out of a loyalty and a love for the club, that he couldn't possibly bring himself to pull on the blue shirt of Manchester City. That's absolute nonsense, in my opinion. The reason that he didn't end up at Manchester City is because there wasn't a particularly strong appetite from the champions to take him there. Certainly wasn't a particularly strong appetite from Pep Guardiola. Yes, Manchester United were a disaster last season, but I think Ronaldo must have been blind if he didn't know what he was walking into. I think it will be better this summer. They've got Erik ten Hag, a strict disciplinarian manager, dare I say, in the Sir Alex Ferguson mould, who is trying to rebuild the squad. We know that Tyrell Malacia is very close to becoming his first signing. I'm told only a visa now is holding up that signing. He's already completed his medical tests. Lisandro Martinez, United pushing for him. Frankie de Jong, they've got Christian Eriksen with this agreement in principle. So work is being done behind the scenes. And for me, the timing of all this coming out from the Ronaldo camp at the weekend doesn't sit right, because I mentioned the players they're trying to sign. Clearly, one of the attractions with joining Manchester United, it isn't because they're in the Champions League, it isn't because Fergie is still there, it's because you get a chance to play with Ronaldo. So the fact his camp are leaking at the weekend that he wants to leave isn't helpful at all in terms of that recruitment drive.
Do you think Erik ten Hag wants him to stay? Is that clear?
I think he does, for the reasons that we heard in that package. I think it was Danny Murphy who said if they let him go, they have to have a replacement lined up. I spoke to Paul Parker, former double-winning defender for the Boot Room on Sunday, and he said the same. He still scored 24 goals last season. Yes, he doesn't have the mobility of Ronaldo first time around when he was at Old Trafford, but he still knows how to put the ball in the back of the net. And ultimately, as Ali will testify, that is a precious commodity. And there aren't that many number nines out there, because Erling Haaland has already fixed himself up with Manchester City. Darwin Nunez was a United target earlier in the summer, but he's at Liverpool now. Unless they're going to go to Bayern Munich, who are one of the clubs possibly that would attract Cristiano Ronaldo and be attractive for him and say, okay, you can have Ronaldo, we'll have Lewandowski, I don't see how they replace him. Not this close to the season starting.
It's a funny one, Crookie, because I'm actually of the opinion that it might suit Ten Hag, and I understand you've got to replace his goals, but I think if the United supporters, and I would imagine hopefully that vast majority of them realise this is going to be a longer term fix rather than a short term fix, I think they would suffer a little bit moving forward for the longer term pluses. And I just think Ronaldo, he's not going to be United long term future, Crookie, and I just think from Ten Hag's point of view, he might want a clean slate to start building immediately if he's going to give him the time, which he should be.
Yeah, I think he will be given the time. I think this is a long-term project, no question about that. I think in some ways, if United find themselves in the top four this season, that might be a bit of a bonus and maybe ahead of schedule. But as I understand it, a number 9 hasn't been particularly high on Ten Hag's priority list. Yes, they sounded out Nunez, but I think he was always going to go to Liverpool. The one forward player I think he is keen to bring in is Antony, who is more of a wide forward from Ajax to play on that right-hand side. But they want big money for him, and he's not really a Ronaldo replacement. I think the big beneficiary of this, if Ronaldo was to leave, actually, could end up being Marcus Rashford, because I know that there's a school of thought that Ten Hag might use him as an out-and-out centre-forward, because we know Sancho wants to play off the left-hand side, which is where probably Rashford has been seen to best effect. I mentioned Antony, who will be the target, I think, if Ronaldo does leave. So maybe it's time for Marcus Rashford to step up into that number 9 role. And I do think he's a player that Ten Hag will coax the best out of. I can't explain Rashford's drop-off in form last season. It's a mystery to me, because I think he's a fantastic player. He's clearly a great guy off the pitch as well, but for whatever reason, there were times last year when he looked like he had the weight of the world on his shoulders. I think him and Jadon Sancho are the two big players that Ten Hag is going to try and manage and coach on the training pitch to get back to their best.
What about Donny van de Beek? What do you think is going to happen to him?
I think he'll be a beneficiary of the Ten Hag era as well. Obviously, a player that he knows and trusts from his time at Ajax. It's no coincidence that he's trying to get in Frankie de Jong as his top target this summer, because they had such a good partnership in midfield when Ajax made it all the way to the Champions League semi-finals. We're a bit unlucky, actually, not to get to the final when you think about that late winner that Tottenham got in Amsterdam. So I think he will have a part to play. I think as well as new signings, and I think they will sign half a dozen, the remit laid down to Ten Hag is that this squad underperformed last season. So your job, as well as improving personnel, is to get the best out of the players that are already there. Harry Maguire, for example, we've seen in an England shirt, Harry Maguire is not as bad as a defender as he showed for Manchester United last season. So he's another player who I would expect to improve under Ten Hag.
Alex, can I ask, with the link to Chelsea, whether or not that's going to happen, if it's Todd Boehly that really wants Ronaldo, and there's also another rumour that he might be interested in Neymar as well. What do those two signings say to you about Todd Boehly? Because there's no one now beneath him, is there, in terms of the people that used to oversee the transfers? They're gone, Bruce Butt's gone, Marina's gone as well. Do you think those are two realistic expectations that Chelsea fans could actually see at the club next season?
I think ultimately Thomas Tuchel will have the final decision. We know there's no real recruitment department now at Chelsea. Marina Granovskaya, who's been the overlady on that front, has gone. So too has Bruce Buck, as you mentioned, Petr Cech as well. So Todd Boehly is leading negotiations, but it's my understanding that Thomas Tuchel really is leading the list of targets. I think Todd Boehly, as an owner, strikes me as somebody who would want to make a big statement, a Ronaldo or a Neymar. Clearly, he's already held talks with George Mendes. That hasn't been denied to me by my contacts at Chelsea or from the Manchester United side. I'm not convinced, as much as Thomas Tuchel is an admirer of Ronaldo, that he necessarily will push for that signing. I think Raheem Sterling is his top target. I think that will happen. It might even happen by the end of this week. And I think Ali's touched on it already. When you look at the limitations that Ronaldo brings to a team, I think Thomas Tuchel will probably steer clear of that. I wouldn't say 100% he won't go to Chelsea. I'm just not convinced that he's Tuchel's ideal signing this summer.
I'm with you, Crookie. I don't think it makes sense. I really do. I do not think that move makes sense. You know, it's a kind of statement to the fans. I think it sends out the wrong message. And I am a massive fan of Ronaldo and what he's achieved. But I think we all can understand that he's coming to the latter stage of his career, and if you're building for the future, then he's not a player you would consider.
Can I also ask as well, Sterling, so I just want a little bit more on Chelsea, and if you've got any other news as well, Alex, but what's the latest with Sterling going to Chelsea?
So I think Sterling will happen. 45, 50 million pounds, the fee. He's keen on the move. He's already spoken to Thomas Tuchel, so I think Chelsea fans can expect him to be at Stamford Bridge by the start of the season. Matthias de Ligt is an interesting one because they're in advanced talks with Juventus, but then last night it came out in Germany that Bayern Munich are also looking at him and he's keen on the move. So it could be back to the drawing board there. Jules Koundé and Nathan Ake at Manchester City, alternative targets. And then you talk about players leaving the club. I think the likes of Timo Werner and Christian Pulisic face a very uncertain future this summer.
Okay, Crookie, thank you very much for your time, mate.
talkSPORT Breakfast with Laura Woods. Monday to Wednesday mornings 6 till 10. On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.